It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
John, I screwed up, but I'm not going to go back and fix it. How's that?
Hey, you know what? TGIM, Brad.
Yeah, I didn't play our intro. It was just, that's my mistake. So,
hey, but you spent the weekend eating vegetables and fruits from Times Beach, so that might explain it, Brad.
No, I did not. That's John Combest, Combest. He's the guy that puts together this list, which we'll get to in a minute. First off, before I go to that, two things I want to hit right off the top. And the B block, we're in the A block right now. The B block, I will give you the reasons why Donald Trump will not win the presidency again, why he will lose for the second time in a row, okay? And
okay. That's in B block then.
B block.
Today is August the 12th. So in B block for August 12th, we're going to learn why Donald Trump will not get reelected.
Right. And I think I make a very compelling argument. Okay. Second thing, we talked about this. Matter of fact, it just brought to my attention the episode that played right before we went on the air here live was one of our best ofs. And I was talking to you about the fact that Gavin Newsom has now done a 180 and it's cleaning up the cities. And you were didn't know about that. And I sent you that article over the weekend. Did you read that?
No, and I skimmed it, but I didn't prioritize it enough to read it. But I saw that he apparently is using federal money to do this, Brad.
Right, but the interesting thing was the picture of him was he actually went to some place in L.A. and he's like in street clothes. He's not in his governor uniform with his $5,000 suit, and he's cleaning up trash and essentially at a former homeless encampment. And now what he's doing is, don't you love politicians when they're doing this? He's saying, hey, he's done all he could, and the local municipalities and the counties have dropped the ball. So,
oh man! Well, that's similar to Tashara Jones going out and mediating disputes. At the corner of Natural Bridge and Kings Highway.
Right.
She's out there every day mediating disputes.
I don't think she is, but well, the idea being is that here we go again. Let's be honest. Someone said to Gavin Newsom, one of his advisors, maybe his group advisors, say, Gavin, I know you have higher aspirations, and I know you at one point in time you do want to run for the president, but you can't have this homeless thing, hovering over you for the rest of your political career, because everybody's going to go, look what happened to California, Gavin Newsom. So you have to make it that you've done all this work and you've done all this fundraising and given the cities and the counties money to take care of the homeless problem, but they've dropped the ball and it's not your fault. And not only that, we need to put you in like a t-shirt and wear your sunglasses and wear your Carhartt pants, and you need to go out and pick up some trash, and we'll call other reporters and we go, oh my God, look at the governor, he's up picking up trash, he's trying to clean up the streets, he's getting rid of the homeless people. Did I do that right?
I mean, talk about cynical, Brad. Who have you been hanging around for the last 9 months that's made you so cynical?
John Combest. And we start off the morning with John's top three.
Now on with the countdown.
And we start off with,
in third place,
a Ferguson officer named Travis Brown is in the hospital with a, quote, severe brain injury, unquote. Brad, I presume you saw the story over the weekend.
Very, very, very sad.
And so first of all, let's talk about this. The Ferguson police chief had what I believe was a compelling talk after. I guess it would have been I guess it was Saturday. Gave a talk. Sorry, I should have that date in front of me. But talked a little bit about these protesters and how the Ferguson police that were protested in 2014 is not the same Ferguson police organization that exists today, that the protesters have no idea what they're talking about. They're just looking to create havoc in the city. And now we have an officer down. It was Ferguson Police Chief Troy Doyle said this during the media briefing on Saturday. So the officer suffered a brain injury, was pushed down by a scholar named Elijah Gantt, who, now Brad, take a wild guess. Would you say that Mr. Gantt was a Ferguson native? Are you thinking maybe he was from Calverton Park? Or do you think maybe he came across the river from East St. Louis?
Well, my first guess would be he would be from Chicago or San Francisco or someplace like that. But since I'll throw out Calverton Park, I would say East St. Louis.
That's correct, Brad. He is a 28-year-old named Elijah Gantt. He's charged with 2 counts of 4th-degree assault on a special victim, 1st-degree assault, and property damage. So now, Brad, if you go back to a month and a day ago, on this show on July 11th, you and I previewed how we were 1 month away from the Michael Brown protests. And you and I suggested that perhaps people be wary, people be careful, and that the Michael Brown, the anniversary of the vicious attack on Officer Darren Wilson by Michael Brown, would be a good excuse for savages to create havoc and lawlessness and attack someone, and maybe even loot. Now, we didn't see a lot of looting, but we sure ended up with an officer in the hospital, didn't we, Brad?
The whole thing is so sad. And you and I maybe are a little bit closer to a lot of people because of the fact that we grew up in North County. I spent a lot of time in that area. I talked about the fact that I used to go to Peaches Records all the time. I had friends that lived in that area. Matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever said this on the air. I got married in Ferguson.
No way. What church, Brad? The big church up there?
No, it's I can't. If you know where the railroad overpass is on Florissant Road, I think the street might be called Wabash, and it's a church up there on the right. Matter of fact, my
yes.
My wife's, who the woman that I married, her parents, not her parents, her grandparents went to that church, and her grandmother essentially said to, at the time, myself and my fiance, that they would love for us to be married in their church, and we both said fine. And it was a very nice ceremony. The only downside was, and we're sort of sad, about 2 weeks before our marriage, the pastor, or the reverend, or whatever he was, I don't know all these terms. I'm a pastor, but whatever he was, he resigned somewhat, and I think he had some health issues. And they had a new guy come in who really wasn't the head dude, but he was sort of like, I guess, the rent-a-reverend or something like that. And my grandmother-in-law, my wife's, grandmother, was upset about this, but yet it was very nice. And once again, I spent a lot of time in Ferguson. I worked and went to school at Florissant Valley 270 Tech, which is in Ferguson. A lot of people don't realize that. Ferguson goes all the way up to 270 right along there, and very sad. Very, very sad with the respect that I think the area was nice 10 years ago, and it's getting nice again, but yet it's going to have this scar on it forever. You know what I mean? And because
I do know.
People won't let it heal. And this is a perfect example. They won't let it heal. Isn't the new chief of police, isn't he a black guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Troy Doyle is black, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, and once again, I would imagine that there's probably not one single solitary police officer on that force that was there 10 years ago.
I would assume that's correct. And also, Troy Doyle points out that he talked about, in short, he said, we've done everything that the protesters called for in their post reports and all the money that they wanted to spend. He said, we even changed our uniforms because some people said that the sight of the old ones was triggering. And he points out that some of these folks are just there. They don't want to heal, Brad. They just want to cause havoc.
You know what, John? There's a word I need to use more in my language to the point where that's such a powerful word because of the fact that, when I go pay my real estate taxes in the various counties that we have transmitter sites, like in St. Charles County or Warren County, I should walk in there and go, I don't have to pay my taxes because this place is triggering to me.
It's triggering.
I may have a panic attack because I have to write you a check. Well, hold on. If it triggers you, you don't have to pay your taxes. Okay, thank you. It makes me feel so much better. So
now, do you know, as a point of fact here, Brad, a number of universities in the United States have actually stopped using the phrase trigger phrase because of its imagery about guns. So now they just talk about. So now they use other circumlocution. They use other euphemisms to describe a trigger warning. But you can't say trigger warning because if you happen to be triggered by gun violence, then the very words trigger warning are indeed triggering. Like, how's that for a paradox wrapped in a conundrum?
Hold on a minute. Let's back up here a minute. I heard if I have my little cartoon things, like the skids.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that Washington University phrase you just used a couple sentences back?
Circumlocution.
Circumlocution.
That's the idea of, if you're reading a Post-a-Spat story and they don't want to say illegal alien or illegal immigrant, they say worker who is not in the United States legally. So circumlocution is anything where you walk around, like picture walking around an obstacle, taking the long route because you really don't want to use the word illegal.
I'm writing that down. I have a friend of mine that is the wordsmith, and I bet you this particular person has never heard that word before. So,
they know it, Brad. I don't mean to intellectually flex here, but it's a pretty common word.
Hold it. Somebody just texted me and said that is circumlocution is used in the freshman classes at Washington University. Okay. So,
actually, it's in the 8th grade training program. Before we got in, we had to pass a test in 8th grade. So
not in Hazelwood, you didn't. Okay. Number
Brad,
2.
when we think about not passing a test, you know what that's a cue to?
Number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
Thanks to Brad Hildebrand, I was smartened up over the weekend about a story from Vernon County that we've covered before, the candidate vetting story. So first of all, Brad, thank you for sending this to me.
My pleasure.
The story was from KSN TV down in Joplin. And it's a story, Brad, that you're familiar with, I'm familiar with, and our listeners are familiar with, thanks to you, which is the vetting process. So in other words, the concept that the Republican Central Committee in Vernon County, and indeed in other counties like Franklin County, would be able to essentially give a stamp of approval to certain candidates before they could appear on the primary ballot. Now, the curious thing, Brad, about the story that you sent me, and I think the amazing data point, is that of 15 members who were on the Vernon County Central Committee, 12 of them lost their seats, Brad. So in other words, critics would call it a cabal of people who say, you can be a Republican on the ballot, you cannot be a Republican on the ballot. Those folks, 12 out of 15, lost the election, Brad. So, when you watch the video of this, I have 2 stories up yesterday on Sunday's headlines about Vernon County. One of them had B-roll of your friend, Mark McCloskey, in court in a dazzling blue suit. I actually really like the suit, arguing for the vetting process. And of course, the county and others argue against it. So, Brad, to your point, there's a lot of people that don't like this vetting process.
Well, but I think this is an interesting footnote. Hold on a minute, I got to clear my voice here. I think this is an interesting footnote in politics in general, in that most people don't realize, and I don't know how it is in St. Louis County. I know how it is in St. Charles County because I know, a couple people, and we've been involved with the St. Charles County Central Committee, the Republican Central Committee. A lot of people don't realize that the people on these committees are elected. They're essentially committee person, okay? And I think this is a perfect example of the people in Vernon County. A bunch of these people who had this very radical view of we have to vet the people that before they can be on the ballot. They were obviously the minority. They were a bunch of people, and what they did was they organized. And once again, love them or hate them, hats off to the fact that they said we don't like the way things are, and we're going to change them. Correct? Isn't that exactly what they?
That's
essentially
correct.
What they do.
That's exactly what happened.
Right. And the only problem was they corrected by going off the reservation, as far as I'm concerned, and doing this crazy vetting thing, which I still can't believe McCloskey is in favor of. Because let's be honest, if Mark McCloskey were running in Vernon County, they would keep him off the ballot. That's my idea. But
he might. You never know, depending on the year, Brad.
Right. I may be wrong. Okay, so what happened was a bunch of people in Vernon County said, we got a problem. These nutbags that are on the Central Committee, they have taken us to a place we don't want to be. They organized, they ran against the people on the Central Committee, and like you said, 12 out of 15 people lost their position on the Vernon County Committee because they did nutty stuff. You know, I mean, and you look at that and you go like, okay, this is what you call political action. Literally political action. In real time. I mean, the idea being that once again, why do people run for offices? Sometimes just because of the fact that it's an ego thing, or they they don't want to have a real job, or they want to have a pension for the rest of their life. They want to have people cater to them, stuff like that. And some people run for political office because they want to make things better. Okay, and
yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was an interesting story. See, I still can't believe Mark McCluskey is for this. I mean, it just blows my mind. I mean, why should there be another level of government essentially saying, see, the interesting thing for me that always comes back to is, the phrase, let the voters decide. You know what I mean? Let the voters decide.
I do, yeah.
If you get some nutbag, KKK white supremacist guy to run for office, run as a Republican or a Democrat, essentially, he's not going to make it. He's going to get shot down in flames at the polling booth. Let that happen. Let that happen. And to me, that sets more of an example of like, hey, look, you got these crazy, weird white supremacist views or these super liberal views. Look what happened with Cori Bush. I mean, I think people finally go, okay, this gal is
great example. Actually, Brad, I heard that was just AIPAC. I heard it was just AIPAC money and that AIPAC bought a seat.
Well,
that's what I heard. Brad.
How in the world can you be? Let's take 30 more seconds for the Cori Bush thing.
Yeah,
I'll recap. How in the world can you be a Democrat? Democrats, for the most part, are pro-labor. And they're pro-jobs. How can you be a Democrat and say, I want to shut down Boeing? Once again, this huge employer in North County, in Cori Bush's district, how in your right mind can you say, I want to shut down Boeing? Yeah, there's going to be white-collar people going to lose their jobs, but a lot of blue-collar guys, a lot of union guys and gals working, making F-15s and 18s and all sorts of other stuff. How in the world? Because of the fact that, they make weapons of war. Give me a break.
It sounds like somebody named Brad has been brainwashed by the military-industrial complex.
Yes. Eisenhower.
That's what I think.
Good old Ike would not be happy with me. Okay, number one.
The number one.
A nice message posted to X on Friday afternoon from Jay Ashcroft. Jay talked a little bit about losing the governor's race, and I'll read real briefly from this, Brad. Tuesday's result was not what we were expecting, with polls showing us tied going into the final weekend, and the response we've been getting traveling to all 114 counties. We had high hopes. At the end of the day, however, it is hard to prevail when you are outspent 3-1. So he calls them the tireless volunteers and supporters from throughout the state, and he encourages Republicans to come together to elect Mike Kehoe and ensure his success as our next governor. I'd also point out, Brad, that the night of the election, Bill Eigel posted a message to X that thanks volunteers. He says he called to congratulate Mike Kehoe on his win and wish him the best, and encourages his supporters to not be discouraged. Did you get I know I sent it to you really late this morning, Brad. Did you get a chance to skim that Ashcroft statement?
I read it. I read the whole thing.
Okay, yeah. What did you think of it?
Well,
I know that sounds like a leading question, but what did you think of it?
You have an agenda point here, don't you?
I do.
Okay. I think the thing that stuck out to me was he got outspent 3-1. Okay. I mean, to me, that's sort of like, okay. I don't know if
you and I agree on that, Brad. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I think that's a poor aspect of our political system, to the point where you can have a good person, let's say a great person, and I'm not saying that's Ashcroft and it's not Ashcroft, but you can have a great person, and if they don't have the cash, they're not going to win. That's sad. But that was why I got out of it. What's the underlying point that John Combest has gleaned from this article?
It was that sentence too. So maybe you and I view that sentence differently. Again, it's at the end of the day, however, it is hard to prevail. It was hard to prevail when you were outspent 3-1. I look at this, Brad, and I think, why did that sentence need to be in there?
Well, I think he's. Are you saying it's an excuse? He's rationalizing the fact that he lost because he didn't have enough money.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, if the point of this is to thank your supporters, like in a heartfelt way, and say thank you for welcoming us into your homes for the last 114 counties, everything you've done for us. Do you need to insert hope there? Do you need to insert some? By the way, we were outspent 3-1.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
maybe I'm being I could be. I'm known to be nitpicky at times, Brad.
Are you saying he's being a little bit too Trumpian in that, in the respect that he's giving? Well, I didn't do it because these people.
No, I just think he didn't. I just think you don't need that sentence. Like, people, if the point of this is to shine a light and say thank you, you don't need to say, by the way, we were outspent 3-1. And that's why we lost. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
I could be a little nitpicky there. Well, by the way, somebody needs to. This is an uncomfortable thing to say, but I don't know if you've seen in the last few months, and it's hard to. This is not a punchline, Brad, but Jay looks terrible. Like, if you've seen pictures of him in the last couple months, Jay hopefully will take some time, and I'm sure the stress has gotten to him, but you don't gain that much weight over a period of 6 months or a year just by eating poorly. Like, there's got to be something going on with Jay, and I'm not a doctor, Brad, but this is not a setup to a joke. Jay looks terrible. And if you look at what he looked, and I haven't seen him in person, so that's a disclaimer, but if you look at pictures of him from a year ago, and then you look at pictures of him now, if 3 Ashcroft staffers went missing, you would call for an abdominal x-ray. You would think that Jay ate 3 of his staffers. He looks horrible.
John,
and hopefully this is an opportunity. Go ahead, Brad.
John, I disagree with you. I saw him in person when I was out at Parkway West, where the high school did the debate between him and Eigel and the dude from Joplin that nobody knew existed in Joplin. Anyway, what was interesting was before the debate started, they brought out some athletic equipment on the stage, and they brought out a bench press bench. And Jay was doing 5 plates on each side. So I think 5 plates on each side times 45.
Now you mean 5 plates of donuts?
No, I mean five plates on the
like 45-pound plates. I got
45 plates.
I thought you meant maybe a stack.
No. Man, he was pumping the iron. I'm going like, damn, look at that guy, and he stood up and flexed the muscles and the whole bit like that. So I think that what you're misinterpreting is you're interpreting the fact that he's bulked up from food.
I got you. Yeah, boy, that's the truth. Then that would explain it.
From muscle, that's what it is. Because now he was looking one step ahead, and he was going to start doing a new weight loss program. Not a weight loss program, but a new diet program. You've seen this all over TV and the internet with Chuck Norris. Him and Chuck Norris are going to work together. So
nice, very good, Brad.
Okay, we have to take a break. Next break, I will give you my reasons why Donald Trump will lose the election in November. And I don't mean this in disrespect to Donald Trump. I mean it. I've done a lot of analysis on this, and I had a little interesting input over the weekend, and it really brought my feelings much sharper. And I'll tell you all about that in the next break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?